These three asked yesterday on the channel, have I ever been to Titchfield? I have to say I haven't, but I am today visiting. Titchfield used to be part of, or at least very extremely close on the edge of, the estate of Saxon, which was Suginch Wearth in Old English times, and which means the farm of their hedge sparrow, probably. Chaucer says, when talking about Suger or Suger, the hedge sparrow, he says, thou murderer of the hay sugar, and he's talking about, might be the magpie, as being the murderer of sparrows. That's hay again. That's Middle English. That hay is talking about a hedge, which is a sort of merge between the Old English becoming Middle English. Becomes Haga becomes whore, but you have the French la haye, and it sort of merges to the sound of the two. So it's not just the sparrow; it's the hedge sparrow.
Arrest of Bridge west on long hairpath is off that trailway. Of them trailwum on Tidich's flower, then on thonna north long and hairpath. Of them hairpath a west on that's mores evered, then on north and long mores or thonna wert wallen. Then on be them wert wallen on thonna stan. Then on erst on that awilla at Woodatuna. Of them awilla erst swa hit ye merked is, on thonna Stannicton way. Then on east and long Merker on north Hearders Mead north a Weirder. Then on Sooth and long Mores on Bridge.
English heritage uses political language when it talks of the suppression of the monasteries. The normal, when we had equanimity and dispassion in our academic language, it was called the dissolution of the monasteries. But it seems that English heritage has taken one side of that debate and run with it. I don't have a problem people having one side. So I have debated this before, what it meant to dissolve the monasteries with people who took the other side from me, and I don't mind doing that with private individuals who are entitled to go around and choose their own way of thinking about things. But when institutions do it, institutions that are funded by the certainly set up by the state. English heritage replaced the Ministry of Works because they take a political position when they shouldn't. They should be neutral in the battles in society. It brings doubt upon their veracity. My position is that it was necessary. A man cannot have two masters. That the church in England become a state within the state. So it was a entirely cynical decision by Henry VIII, so that he could, as everybody knows, he could marry again. But it was also, there was a whole load of Protestant radicals that were political as well as religious, who saw that the church taking away the wealth of the nation and living the high life was the opposite of what a democratic and Christian society should be. I do have some sympathy. The monasteries did act like hospitals. They were charitable institutions in many ways. And that land was taken away and sold off to Henry VIII's mates, who made comfortable manor houses out of them. But it was one of the starting points towards the ending of a society where you had obligations to people more important than you, feudalism, and headed towards a capitalist society where theoretically you can choose to do what you like. And as a stage towards a better society, that was I think, overall, balancing things up, I think that was a good thing. It's quite a nice little town. Can you hear those bells in the background? But it is, you've got these lovely old 17th, 18th century, 19th century buildings, and these cottages are nice. And completely surrounded by urban sprawl. And it is, that genie will never go back in the bottle, sadly, but you get these little pockets of quietness. So Titchfield, I'm walking along Titchfield Canal now, and the River Meon is over there, and there's a story about that. But Titchfield itself, Ticcen Feld, is probably the open land of a guy called Ticcen. Now there's lots of Titches, place names, old place names with Ticcen in them in Hampshire. He must have been a very important man. He's recorded everywhere, but it seems to be, it could be his field. Ticcen also means kid in Old English. I bet you didn't know that. The last time you called somebody small titch, I bet you didn't think he goes back 1,000 years. But I bet you didn't even think it was real English. But it's a nice landscape. Now, Segenworth is part, or Sedgeworth, I don't know how the locals pronounce it, is part of this parish, and it has two charters. It's one talks about north of the Harapartha. So it must be the road, the A27. I'm pretty sure it's the A27. And does one hide, which, as we know from the charter of Ticcen, see the video a couple of weeks ago, it's around about 180 acres, something like that, enough to feed one extended family. And it's very similar to Ticcen because we've got an inland, certainly Ticcen was an inland port at some point, and then it silted up, and the same has happened here. We're a mile from the coast. Hold on, there's a kestrel. But anyway, it didn't silt up naturally. It silted up because sod came along and built a wall across the River Meon, the mouth of the River Meon. And what happened was it turned serious wetland into meadow and also stopped the ships from coming up. And now, if this was Italy or Spain, that man would have found himself accidentally buried underneath his wall, or drowned, or hanged from the nearest tree. Had a multitude of accidents happening to him, but it shows just how much of a lawful country Britain is, that one man destroying the livelihood of a whole town still got away with it because he owned the fields. I'm not going to be able to go down there. Even my boots, even my wonderful boots from Hogs of Fife, is going to be able to stay waterproof in that. We're not out of options though. We carry on down the canal. I didn't expect to be talking about my father. My father used to work there. One of the jobs he had, he was a type of technician, a planning engineer, and his job was to tell everybody how much time it should take to do a job, which meant that he wasn't the most popular person in his firm. The company newsletters used to have skits about him, which is ironic, because I'm sure in my last workplace there were skits done about me as well. But I've always tried to understand how to run a big entity, a state or a corporation or what. Well, no, let's talk with the state. How do you run a massive economy to make sure the wheels are running all the time and nothing collapses, so that you're not a basket case that gets swept up in somebody else's empire? And this is a case in point. This is an oil refinery, and it takes oil from abroad and refines it here. With all those moving parts, everything from international trade to electrical craftsmanship, all of it must be planned and must be put together in such a way it doesn't fall apart. And that's just really fascinating to me. But it was something my dad did. That was his job. And it's curious. I didn't expect to see Fawley when I came here. I don't know why. And when I did, I immediately went, oh, that's Fawley. And it goes to show that the craftsmanship and technical skill is still here, that the wheels are still turning. It's not chaos. They're so determined to keep selling oil that they will make sure, no matter what, that it happens. And we need that oil to keep things running. We haven't yet got to the point where we can run a society in using renewables. But it was a fond sight for me to see it. I am interested in the industrial aesthetic. I'm just against sprawl, but when you see what I think is quite beautiful in the landscape, I like it. I think it mirrors the landscape really well. It's just mess I don't like. But anyway, yeah, that reminded me of my father. behind me is Wictris, which is a Romano-British name. I don't know what it means. Again, like Fawley, I didn't expect to see the Isle of Wight. I don't know why. I'm not from Hampshire. I should have seen when it said on the map the Solent. I should have seen it. I was genuinely surprised to see it there in front of me, going, "What's that land? That can't be France." But yeah. So all of this I'm doing from memory. But Vectris as it's spelled. The people that settled there during the Anglo-Saxon invasion were the Wictis, the Wictii. So they took the name from the place where they went to live, which is quite interesting because there's not many Germanic peoples there's not many Germanic peoples that took the regional names of the British, the Romano-British, and took it for themselves. The only other example I can think of, and correct me if I'm wrong by the way, I'm just doing this from memory, is the Cantwara, which are the people of Kent, and that's an old Romano-British name as well. But it was nice to see that, because it meant I could talk about it. There's some Anglo-Saxon charters over there. To get over there, you need to take the ferry, or there's a huge number of private planes going backwards and forwards. So I presume there's a lot of rich people. You know, I'll just pop over to the shops in the plain, dear. You know, but it's there are Anglo-Saxon charters over there. I must go sometime and do one. But the facing Waitress is the River Meon, which I mentioned earlier. It is that too is a British name, a Welsh name, probably a pre-Saxon name, and that's what we're looking for. We're looking for in the Anglo-Saxon record, we're looking for prehistory and Roman things, and we've got another one here. Aircore says it's probably similar or the same as Maine in France, the River Maine in France. But that's named after a tribe, the Samana, something like that. And there were Gaulish French tribes that came to live in Britain. The Archaeology are said to be, according to, I think it's Julius Caesar said it, they're meant to be Gaulish. The Belgae, obviously, they're the same name as Belgium. They came from Gaul. So perhaps the Samane did as well. But anyway, that's. I just thought I'd point out. Wallington. Wallington sounds awfully like Wallingford, doesn't it? Except it's not. Wallington is Wallatuna in Old English, which means that the town, the farm, the estate of the Welsh. Now Wallingford doesn't, and Wikipedia, the authors of the editors of Wikipedia have misrepresented the words of Equal. Equal says that it is the ford of the people of Walch, of Walch's people. It says nothing about the Welsh or Walhaz or any of that bothering. Excuse my French. On Wikipedia, you shouldn't use Wikipedia to learn about the past. It's good to start you off. Go and check with reputable sources. I'm sorry to have to say this, but it's terrible. He didn't say that. It's Walch's people. The problem is the ing part. The ing part exists in Wallingford. The ing part didn't used to exist in Wallington. So Walla means the Welsh. Tun means estate, farm, village. It's the estate of the Welsh. So unlike Wallingford, that is the Welsh lived. It could also mean serfs, but it's probably a Welsh enclave. Next, very close to the Meon. This is cliff samphire, rock samphire, and I talked about this in the Ticcen video, but I couldn't find any. I found it here, normally up on cliffs, but it's in a cranny next to the seashore, next to the wall. So that is a succulent. It has a slightly paraffin-y smell to it, but it's actually delicious. I'm not going to eat this because dogs have been up and down there, but it was a nice to see it, and something I'm able to show you. There's all this stuff, all this edibles in there. I know I'm a bit gutsy, but it's useful to you to know what's in your landscape. Useful that is useful to you. Somebody's attempted to lay a hedge over there. It's not too bad actually, but anyway. The reason I want to have a look at this canal is because the second charter has two locations in it. One which is the river Meon, and the second is what it says is the Meon ditch, or the Meon brock. It basically means the same thing, the mill stream. I was wondering whether this canal, even though it's said to have been made in 1610, it could have been already a ditch that was dug out even to make a canal and make something you could put a boat down. Now so I wanted to come and have a look, see if I could get some sort of sense of whether that's what happened, whether this is even the meadow that charter is talking about. This second charter is a meadow attached to the estate, and you often find woodland and meadows attached to Saxon charters, but it could be further up. Now, Meon tells us it's a mill. There's no point having a water channel after the mill. What you want to do is just get that leat to go back into the river and save yourself some digging. You'd have a leat before the mill. Now the mill is up in the village in Titchfield, so unless there was a mill further down here at some point, which I don't know, which I don't think, it probably isn't. I think it might be the mill ditch. It's also one hide, which, as we know, is at somewhere around 180 acres. Which this is a very narrow strip between the Meon and this canal. So, but it could be like I say, above the mill, coming downstream. It could be a stretch of meadow there. The charter has a couple of other interesting elements. The other charter, the bigger one of the main estate, and it has two Hera paths, one going east-west, which is, I think it's the A27, and another that it says is a north long, which is a bit like live long, as in something that goes along a life. This goes along north, so there's a northbound Hera path. Now, Hera paths mean, transliteratively, they mean army path. The meaning became highway after a bit, and it literally high. But this down here, next to the sea and next to a river, it's not high. It's probably just saying an important state road, King's Road of some sort. I talked earlier when I was talking about the abbey, the monastery, about how people before the modern period had obligations to their lord. By the way, lord is hlaforder, which means loaf giver. Your lord is your loaf giver, and lady is hlafdiye, which I think is loaf kneader, as in kneading sort of thing. And
but obligations are in the charters. There's one charter that I think it's somewhere in London, that sets out how many men from each village around the Lord's farm would have to go and serve on his ship. That you would have, and that's a two-pronged, that's a double-edged blade. One, there's a job for one person in your village no matter what. But two, somebody has to be, if you can't find a volunteer, somebody has to be compelled. And there's other charters that talk about, well, there's a charter of Ticcen where they talk of a ship that is, I believe, rented by Welsh sailors, and they call them the ship whalas. That whaler word again from earlier on. But anyway, that's a subject for a different time. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you've enjoyed this, watch this one next. And I hope to see you on the next one. Ta-ra for now.